The Catholic Church loses its leader.
Harvard University is fighting back after federal funding cuts.
Some Iowa state senators band together.
From the White House, covering the actions of the administration and how they are running our country. From the nation's capital, where Iowa lawmakers' work impacts the nation. From Iowa, where politicians determine what direction to take Iowa in. DITV's The Update is keeping you up to date with all the latest nationwide and statewide news and politics.
Welcome to The Update, your home for national news.
From the White House, our nation's capital, and all over the country, we're here keeping you up to date. I'm Isabel Thier.
And I'm Kayla Smith. And you know, Izzy, it feels so great to be back here on The Update with you guys. I'm so excited.
We're so happy to have you back.
Yeah, and you know, there's been a lot of things happening, you know, nationally, internationally, so let's go ahead and look at this breaking news that came out on Monday. So the Pope died early Easter Monday at the age of 88. The Vatican confirmed that Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, passed away from a cerebral stroke that put him into a coma and led to irreversible heart failure, just hours after leading the Vatican's Easter Mass. He had been suffering from lung disease for years and in February was hospitalized for double pneumonia. Pope Francis had been serving as the head of the Roman Catholic Church since 2013, after Pope Benedict resigned. Pope Francis made history by becoming the first Latin American pontiff. His death begins a series of rituals and a confirmation process known as the conclave to pick his successor. The gunman in the 2019 El Paso, Texas Walmart shooting pled guilty on Monday. Patrick Cruces pled guilty to 22 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and has been sentenced to 22 life sentences without the possibility of parole. He had previously pled guilty to 90 counts of hate crime and weapon offenses in 2023, being sentenced to 90 consecutive life sentences. The gunman was only 21 years old when he entered the Walmart, shooting 45 people and killing 23. Cruces has confirmed that he was targeting Hispanics, making the shooting the deadliest attack against the ethnic group in American history.
Defense Secretary Hegseth was once again in the spotlight. Last month, Pete Hegseth released information on a U.S. airstrike on Yemen. He used his personal phone to send information and signal chats in reporters across the country. This, however, would not be the end of Hegseth's fame. Once again, he's been caught sending sensitive information out to people without clearance. Hegseth's second chat included some personal connections, such as his wife, lawyer, and his brother, who had been recently hired as a connection to the Pentagon for the Department of Homeland Security. When asked about this, Hegseth lashed out against the press.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
President Trump stood by Hegseth's side through the first leak, and so far he's stood with his secretary in the second scandal. And after President Trump cut down on federal funds from Harvard, the Ivy School is striking back. Last week, Trump froze over $2.2 billion in grants and over $60 million in contracts to Harvard because they would not comply with his new terms he set. As a result, Harvard is fighting back and suing the president on terms that it is unlawful and will slow down disease research. The Oval Office is standing its ground and is not going to back down without a fight.
Because I think Harvard's a disgrace. I think what they did was a disgrace. They're obviously anti-Semitic.
Politicians are now telling the university that the gravy train of money has come to an end and it's time to come back to reality. Harvard does not look to be backing down as the lawsuit is standing strong. And in efforts to form a more smaller centralized government, the State Department is looking to face some changes. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced plans to cut back and size down the State Department. He's planning on cutting down the staff by 15% and eliminating 132 offices. He will also eliminate approximately 700 positions in the federal agency. The State Department, however, had a different idea.
As a reminder again, because I know there's been a lot of fake news out there, this is a reorganization plan. It is not something where people are being fired.
The Department of Government Efficiency will step in and evaluate what needs to be done now.
Wow, that was definitely a lot happening there. And you know where else there's a lot happening?
I'm thinking in the Senate and House.
Yeah, so we're going to send it over to Ryan, who has a look at the House and Senate updates, and we'll look at Capitol Hill.
Yes, a Biden-era housing program is losing money fast. Emergency housing vouchers is expected to lose funding by the end of next year, and expected tens of thousands of Americans could be left unable to pay rent. Whether or not the program will continue is up to Congress to make the decision. The plan initially gave $5 billion for the program, but increasing costs for rent may force the program to run out of money sooner. Organizations advocating for the program to continue are not optimistic about its chances. And a United States representative launched a run for a Senate seat. Democratic Michigan Representative Haley Stevens launched her campaign with a focus on the economy.
Our economy is being hampered. We're $1.2 billion loss every week.
While Stevens is displeased with the current state of the economy, she's not necessarily against the practice of tariffs. She mentioned she would support some tariffs against China to keep American industry competitive, but thinks that President Donald Trump's approach is too chaotic. The Michigan race is gaining interest nationwide with a current 53-47 Republican majority in the chamber. And taking it back, local Iowa state senators are sending letters to the Supreme Court. The letters are a formal call for the court to reject rulings of presidential immunity for criminal acts committed in office. The senators say its actions are in reference to President Trump's efforts against congressional authority and interference with legal investigations. They share a belief that no president should be above the law and that the Constitution does not protect the president from legal consequences. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you for that update.
Yep. So now we're gonna have a look with Johnny Valtman on how things are looking with foreign affairs.
Thanks, guys. And as we look around the world on ongoing conflicts, not much has changed since last week.
In the Ukraine-Russia war, a surprise came over the weekend as Russia made a shocking promise.
By humanitarian considerations, the Russian side is declaring an Easter ceasefire from 6 p.m. today to midnight from Sunday to Monday.
This promise was not held as Easter Sunday rolled around and sirens went off in Ukraine.
Confirmed that the next hours after the ceasefire was supposed to take place, the Russians were shelling the Ukrainian positions with artillery.
Attacks continued on Easter Sunday as the promised truce fell through. Before the Sunday attacks, more than 200 Ukrainian prisoners of war were returned. Negotiations between the two sides are still stalled as the Trump administration has been unable to bring both sides to an agreement. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee visited the Western Wall in Jerusalem late last week. On behalf of the White House, Huckabee delivered a handwritten prayer by the president and his own thoughts and prayers.
The final weekend of Passover. I cannot think of a better time to come and to bring this message of goodwill. And I also come with a prayer that all of the hostages will come home now.
Along with that, Israel took responsibility for the killing of 15 first responders last month, claiming professional failures leading up to the shooting and burning of those responders. The United States is making progress with Iran with their nuclear program. After a second stint of indirect talks are expected to resume this weekend. This came days after President Trump reiterated his thoughts on Iran having the capabilities of producing nuclear weapons.
I'm for stopping Iran, very simply, from having a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. I want Iran to be great and prosperous and terrific.
While the fighting has been light in this past week, we are getting mixed signals or none at all from these conflicts and any ends in sight. Back to you guys.
And the stock market is on the ups. The S&P 500 dropped 2.5%, the Dow Jones 2.7%, and the NASDAQ 2.7% yesterday. And as of market close yesterday, the S&P was at 5,287.76 points, the Dow Jones at 39,186.98, and the NASDAQ at 16,300.42. Now, Monday was singing a different tune as we watched the stock market falter as the S&P dropped 2.4%, the Dow Jones 2.5%, and the NASDAQ 2.6%. Now, the stock market might have made up their Monday losses, but concerns are still high regarding Trump's trade wars. Now, some economic strategists believe that the market will continue to make dramatic rises and falls as Trump continues to negotiate his tariffs with other countries. Now, if these deals were to fall through, there are definitely some concerns of a recession. And if we take these concerns internationally, there are fears of slow economic growth around the world. The International Monetary Fund lowered their prediction for economic growth this year from 3.3% to 2.8% in light of the uncertainty and impacts of Trump's tariffs. They also predicted that the U.S. economic growth will reach just 1.8%, down nearly 1% from their previous forecast. Now, thank you so much for tuning in to the update this morning, where you'll find all your news and politics.
Tune in next week for more updates from across the nation and the world.
From The Update, I'm Kayla Smith.
And I'm Isabel Thier. Have a wonderful day.